Adrian Burgess reckons they're a pretty good chance. He thinks they'll have the car ready for qualifying. They've had to lift the engine out, work on the subframe, the subfront, get it all back in together, and it's just a race against the clock at the moment. It's going to be touch and go.
Thanks, Brett. The clock, by my watch, would be ticking at about 80 minutes to get that car ready, Andrew, and that's tough.
That's a mammoth effort. We had the car out of Jason Bargwanna's car before, and it was a 55-minute engine out, new engine in. So that's a great job by those guys to turn that car around.
Let's have a look at the championship points heading into this one. Andrew Thompson, who is Jamie's co-driver, is 154 points in front. I said 155 before the break. I gave him one too many. Scott McLaughlin back here for his second run in the Fujitsu 4. Jack Perkins on the front row. Chaz Mostert, Dan Gillison, Rodney Jane and Paul Morris. That is the top 10 coming into this one. Remember too, the great race on Sunday is in HD on 7, mate. Make sure you tune in there. 161 laps, 14 laps for this one. It's Fujitsu Friday. We've got so used to seeing the development series here at the mountain. Good field too. And this is a chance for Thompson to really establish a bit of dominance on this championship. He has really dominated this series. He won here in 2006 when he was a teenager for Dick Johnson Racing, so he's actually undefeated in the development category.
Perfect, right. He will know that as well, lining up on this grid, that he's got the runs on the board as far as Bathurst is concerned. But Jack Perkins, he'll be certainly looking to beat him into turn 1. And
this will be a good opportunity for the co-drivers for Sunday who might start the race to do a race start on the mountain. Really looking forward to this one. Race 1 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercars. And it's Thompson who's got the jump. Look for David Russell from the second row. Nick Percat down the outside. The Coates Hire Commodore making up ground as well. But Jack Perkins has to give way. His boss, Paul Morris, is at the inside.
Unfortunately, I think I put the mockers on Jack. He got a shocker from the front row. Really hard to get off the line, these things. Big 315 diff, 100% throttle and about 80% tank capacity. There's a lot of weight in these cars, and you can see Jack struggled as we watch them go up Mountain Straight and into turn 2 for the first run.
Morris 4th, then Perkins, Rodney Jane, Blanchard, McLaughlin. That pink Commodore, that's David Wall. They've repainted the Wilson security car in this category and the main race for Sunday for the McGrath Foundation. Great initiative from that team, but it's Thompson, the Monster Commodore. This car finished second in the big race last year with Jamie Whincup at the helm. We go back in the pack. This is Colin Cedars, the Careflight in-car camera. Oh, David Russell had that sideways on the run towards Reed Park.
From the driver's perspective, this is a really good thing for Andrew Thompson. Big advantage to lead this first lap. You've got clear track ahead of you. You can commit. You can see what's on the road. Some of these guys, as we saw from the David Cedars Careflight in-car, he's buried in mid-pack, and that really hampers the vision and your commitment levels on a track like this. So Andrew Thompson making light work of it.
Plenty of drivers here for the first time in the Fujitsu series. Some of them have been here as co-drivers in the 1000. Tim Blanchard there makes his great race debut on Sunday with David Reynolds in the Stratco car. Back with Colin Cedars, has done a couple of test days at Eastern Creek to get himself back in the rhythm of V8 Supercars, just following Paul Freestone there in the car that James Moffat drove here last year.
Had a quick cheeky look there and then decided not this time round. Plenty of laps left.
Lap 1 into the chase. This is a replay of the start. Look for Perkins. Initially it went okay, but he had to have a second go at it.
Yeah, got the jump, and as I mentioned, big diff in the back of these cars for Bathurst. As we look on board with Jack, you'll notice, see, there we go. He gets the jump, but just let the clutch out a little bit too much. The rear of the car is bogged, and he's had to have a second stab at it, and that's all it takes to go from the front row back a couple of spots.
Thompson's margin at the end of one lap is 1.5 seconds. He is really in good form. David Russell second. He'll be with Todd Kelly on Sunday for Jack Daniels Racing. And Nick Percat, we've spoken about it in previous weeks. He did a great job at Phillip Island. He'll team up with Garth Tander in the big one on Sunday. If he can pull off a win, he'll be the first rookie to win the great race in over 30 years. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, and look, certainly Garth has been around for a long time. He's not going to choose a co-driver that he thinks is going to put him at, I guess, at risk of not winning this event. He put his faith in Nick, and Nick certainly came out and delivered at Bathurst, especially given that he stalled the thing off the line and then had to regroup, and that charge, he was really the man of the moment at Phillip Island. He put a lot of people, a lot of his doubters, I guess, in their place.
I reckon the phone might have rung just quietly as well. A few people pretty interested to see what his future plans are. Jack Perkins here is 4th in the championship coming into this weekend. Had a really bad round at Queensland Raceway where he made contact with Nick Percat, was penalised, had all sorts of dramas. And a certain fellow won a race at Queensland Raceway. I can't remember his name, though.
Yeah, he's a pretty good bloke, that guy. If you remember his name, Noons, let us know. But look, Nick Percat, he seems to be driving the co-tyre magnet so far this year. He has unfortunately been involved in a lot of incidents, and you know that's been his downfall as far as his championship aspirations are concerned. Plenty of pace, but not really being able to put that pace into results.
The guy's name was Andrew Jones, by the way, just in case you're looking for it. Mark Scaife keeping an eye.
Write that down.
Yeah, you should. Mark Scaife keeping an eye on proceedings, of course. Teams up with Craig Lowndes once more. Back in the pack here, Rodney Jane, the only FG model, the newer model Falcon in the Fujitsu series. We jump on board with Tim Blanchard, runner-up in the Fujitsu category last year and really starting to put some pressure on his former Sonic teammate.
Yeah, that's right. These guys were teammates last year, and I know Timmy quite well, do a fair bit of work with him, and he'll be keen to get that Sonic car behind him and press on and get up the road a little bit. Good little battle here. Marcus Zukanovic driving the wheels off that car. David Wall, as we referred to, in the pink Wilson security car, looking for a way by. Not sure if blocking is appropriate on lap 3, but anyway, it's good racing.
Blanchard got the move done. He's through to P6. This is Zukanovic, Wall, Chaz Mostert, who topped practice yesterday. They only got one practice session in. The second was Cam, so they really didn't get much track time leading in. Chaz Mostert's teammate, by the way, Ash Walsh, is not starting this race. That car was too badly damaged in a crash in qualifying, and he is done for the weekend. A real shame.
I think Chaz Mostert is a real talent, and at the moment he's in a privateer-backed ran team, and it's all self-funded, and he's doing a really good job. Every time it rains, it rained up at Ipswich, and he had great pace as he did yesterday also.
First for this race. This is the first race in the Fujitsu series, though, and Tim Blanchard is back in 6th. This is his teammate, David Russell, in 2nd spot, being chased by Nick Percat, who, Andrew Jones, was the fastest man on the road last lap around.
Yeah, and that to me says that there's some scenarios playing out here tyre pressure-wise. What some of these guys will do, they'll start with a lower pressure. I reckon Nick Percat's thing, he'll be on a low-pressure start base, and that thing looks like it's just starting to come good.
Last time around he did 2:10.43. Yesterday, the only practice session these guys got was in the wet, and then they had qualifying earlier on today, which was dry, and they were in the high 9. So obviously not as much rubber down on the road. But Thompson's margin 1.6 seconds at the moment.
Well, Mark Scaife, he's won here 6 times. The commentator's hat has come off. The race face has come on. Scaife, how are you feeling about it? Good to be back here?
Oh, look, it's great to be back, Brett. This is an extraordinary racetrack. This is the best racetrack in this part of the world, and all the tradition and the status of this event. It's it's motorsport's grand final.
Tell us about qualifying. What's the strategy for you guys?
Well, I mean, fortunately, our cars have been pretty good since the time we rolled them out. So you've got to be mindful of the changes that have been made in terms of circuit condition. The place changes so much. It's so fast that a small change to the car at a fast corner makes a big time difference. So obviously a bit of damage on Jamie's car the guys are fixing, and with Craig and my car, a few little suspension tweaks as we've led into qualifying. We didn't put new tyres on before this qualifying session, meaning that we're quite confident the car's pretty good. So throw some tyres at it and see what happens.
Are you watching the sky?
You're watching the sky, and I'm seriously more nervous about it than when I'm not qualifying myself. It's actually hard work.
Scapey, all the very best. It's going to be a great day today. Fingers crossed the rain stays away.
Absolutely, Brett. Thanks, mate.
All the best.
Having a look back here in the pack over the crest of the hill, that was James Brock going through. Tony Bates in a new look car this weekend, position 18. Adam Wallace from South Australia here under pressure from Paul Freestone, who's going to sneak up the inside here, former class champ in the Australian GT Championship.
Good move into turn 2. Got to be careful there. Pretty good opportunity to lock the rears, and as we saw in qualifying with James Moffat, ending up backing it into the fence there. So great job by Paul Freestone into turn 2.
And this car here with Adam Wallace, this is a car that he picked up during the year. It's an ex-Lee Holdsworth Gary Rogers Motorsport Commodore. Did some winning at Oran Park in the wet a few years ago, actually, this one. So plenty of cars with plenty of history too in the Fujitsu series that all come from the V8 Supercars Championship. Thompson's margin, though, he's got it back to 2 seconds out in front, so he's really controlling this race.
You would love this category, wouldn't you, for car history, Noons? You're a walking encyclopedia as far as car history is concerned.
Somewhat of a nerd. Jack Perkins here. This is a winning car from 2008.
We're actually on board with Scott McLaughlin here, having a look at the back of Rodney Jane's car down Conrod Straight. 6th gear, cars get light over the top of the hill here. Really good chance of a bit of wheel spin. Just edging on the 300k mark. Should have been probably a little bit more flat through the kink there, Scotty McLaughlin. I'll have a word with him after this one.
He's only 18, give him a chance, but he's actually pretty excited because this is about redemption for him. He was here for the first time last year, crashed and was out for the weekend. And he's got his eye on getting an FG model Falcon for the rest of the Fujitsu series. Next round is at Sandown in November, and then the final round at the Sydney Telstra 500. And the car that he's going to get his hands on is the one that we've got at our host desk this weekend. It's the car that was crashed last year on the Gold Coast with David Ram, fully repaired. It's brand new, it's ready to go, and he's really pumped to get his hands on that much newer car.
He's doing a good job. He's really going about this the right way. Oh, big
Daniel Gillison didn't then.
No, he was really important to get a run up Mountain Straight there, and you could just see he's cracked that throttle at the apex and really wanted to stay on the gas all the way out, but ran out of road, and now that's hurt him. It's given Scott McLaughlin a bit of breathing space, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get up on the back of Rodney Jane.
And Gillison drops the spot to Marcus Sukanovic, who moves on through up into the top 10, the former V8 Ute champ, who's also racing a Ute here this weekend, so he's another doing double duty. Made his 1000 debut in a wildcard entry last year for Greg Murphy Racing.
Says a lot about the circuit up here, doesn't it? You get guys running in a couple of different categories over the weekend, just because it doesn't matter what you drive around this place, it is a cracking race circuit to drive. You'd be happy to drive an Esky, apparently.
It's probably the only thing I'm licensed to drive.
Doing that, actually.
Ross Stone, Jimmy Stone watching on as the young gun Scott McLaughlin driving one of their BF model cars. Runs around, position 8 at the moment. He's had a really good year. Won his first race in the last round of the championship at Queensland Raceway.
Little tyre lock up there, very easy to do. Especially in that last phase of the S's there, you sort of, the big theory is hustle, hustle, hustle all the way down there. That's commitment from Marcus Sukanovic. Actually, I'd say that's probably a little bit too much commitment, as he has a look down the inside of Scotty McLaughlin.
And McLaughlin just left a little bit of road there just in case Sukanovic had to use it.
18 years old, but he's done plenty of kart racing, won lots of kart championships, and you can tell there the racecraft really came in. He could hear that noise from within inside his car and went, hang on a sec, going to have some room, otherwise we're going to both end up in the fence here.
Oh, Sukanovic wants a spot. He's in deep at the chase. Will he pull it up in time? He has to throw it at the curb to make it, but he does.
Good job, really good job. I actually thought he overcommitted there. I think the curb helped him turn that car. Let's hope he doesn't block here. We don't want to see this early on. If you make a pass by, guys, what we'd like to see is the opportunity for Scotty McLaughlin to have a crack back at him.
Is this a reference back to the other 500 when you got involved in an incident where you thought someone was blocking?
So Marcus is doing a great job here, Noons. Doing a great job. Thanks for bringing that up, mate.
Give me something.
Look, absolutely. These guys are here. They're trying to learn their racecraft, and I think blocking is not part of that racecraft. Look, Marcus is doing a great job, but give Scott the opportunity to have a crack at him. Scott did the right thing for him, and it's a long race. We're only halfway through it. So as we go up Mountain Straight, thought Scott was going to have a bit of a look there.
No, David Wall closing in. We'll see David in action again for the second straight year with Carl Reindler in the Fair Dinkum Sheds car from the BJR workshops.
I think we should touch on the Wilson Security pink paint job there for this weekend on David Wall's car. Speaking of touching on, really great initiative by those guys at Wilson Security. They bring this out every year for this event, and it's a high-profile event, and it's a great organisation. Thanks, Noons, that those guys are involved with there, and they do some terrific stuff for breast cancer awareness.
Looking back from the Fujitsu 4, that McLaughlin's just a bit wide across the top of McPhillamy. We've seen a few cars have dramas there, but Zukanovic's just been able to edge away, and Daniel Gillison and Chaz Mostert have closed in, and this is a really good fight, and this is actually the tail of the top 10. A few years ago, this sort of pace would have had you at the front.
Yeah, I think Scott's actually becoming a bit of a roadblock here, to be honest, mate. Something looks like it's not very comfortable in that car. He looks like he's having a bit of a struggle, whereas early on he was pretty good. So he needs to be careful he doesn't get turned around here. And
I think David Wall gave him another little bit of a tap on the run into the elbow. Of course, David is a two-time Australian GT champion, making the step up to Fujitsu Series this year for the first time. A bit different from the Porsche that he's been in the last couple of years here. And Chaz Mostert at the tail of the pack, reigning Formula 4 champ. So we've got guys who have been really good in other categories, all now coming to play in the same sandpit.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea of this Fujitsu series. It's another stepping stone, I guess, for these guys that have been really competitive in other categories, as you mentioned. Give them a chance to come and hone their craft. Here we go, David Wall. Last corner, up the inside of Scott McLaughlin. Good job. Scott to look for the over and under, but just struggling for re-grip in that thing. You really should have been able to get on the gas a bit earlier than David and have a look to run up the inside of him into turn one, but couldn't do it.
The run back up the mountain. Thompson leads. He's really stretched the margin. He's got this one under control. 3.5 seconds the margin. Replay the chase. Looking back. Oh, Jeff Emery, AC Delco Commodore, and it's slippery out there. Oh, not a good place to park. Robert Cregan misses. And at least he got full view of what was coming, but he couldn't do much about it.
Nothing worse as a driver. When you're in a position like that, it's been raining for a couple of days, you're on slick tyres. Another little replay here of Aaron McGill doing some of his best sideways style on the exit of turn 2. But as I was saying with Jeff Emery there, nothing worse than when you're on slick tyres, wet bit of grass, things spinning across the road. You don't want to come into oncoming traffic.
And that was Daniel Gillison, who went so close to tagging the wall there. Young gun, part of the 4-car Greg Murphy racing operation. Last few years they've run a wildcard entry in the main race, but they've decided this year to stick with the Fujitsu series. This is Robert Cregan, the Irishman, having his first run at Bathurst with Matt Stone Racing.
Matt Stone, related to the famous Jimmy and Ross.
Son of Jim.
Decided to go out on his own, run his own team, got Robert Cregan on board, which is great. Scotsman, I believe.
Irishman.
Close. There you go.
Nick Percat could have been Scottish, Irish and everything. He could have been in the fence.
Irish, all the same, aren't they?
Oh, near enough, to be sure,
look,
sure.
He's doing a great job running his own team. Obviously a car from the Stone Brothers group, but putting all those pieces in together to run a car at this level is not an easy job. So good on him for going out and having a crack on his own. Big moment there from Nick Percat. Commitment plus. These guys have actually sort of just tapered off a little bit here. It's a bit status quo at the minute. That gap seems to be pretty stagnant between the top 4. I thought Jack would have a little bit more pace here. He's got the headlights on and he's trying to come at them, but just not making any inroads.
Yeah, that time around, Thompson 10.7, Russell 11.1, Percat 11.7. board with the Fujitsu Ford, looking back at Mostert. Daniel Jellison, his next car in the queue. Out in front, Andrew Thompson has stretched the margin, Andrew. It's an even 4 seconds now. He's got this one under control with 5 to run.
Yeah, certainly Andrew will be controlling this race, but somebody that's not controlling this race is Scott McLaughlin. He looks really weak in the braking area.
He's hanging on, isn't he?
Yeah, he's working pretty hard, and I see this sort of onboard footage, and I think some days those guys are working harder than the guys at the front are.
I'm down here with Fabian Coulthard, best remember for that big wild ride at the Caltex Chase last year. So that incident, Fabian, we saw in practice 5 there probably doesn't even compare. Any damage, mate, or was it bad?
No, look, it's bad enough. It's bad enough to make us not finish the session and get a good run on the new tyre. But it's very superficial. Structurally it was fine, and it's a credit to the boys. As you can see, it's all back together and looking happy as it was when it started practice 5.
And you're happy with performance so far?
Yeah, I think it's been reasonable. It was good in the car, was good in the wet, and we just need to fine-tune it slightly for the dry. But it's a long race. It's 1,000 Ks. It's not that big an issue.
Fabs, it looks to me, when you look at the circuit, I don't know if you saw the Jamie Whincup incident, it would appear, and we're going to see this over the weekend with showers. If there's rain and you get this drying line with the cars running around as they do, if you just go a little bit offline, that white paint appears to be very, very slippery.
Look, like it's even more so than any other year we've been here. So I don't know if it's slightly different paint than they used last year, but you can't go anywhere near it. This place you have to be inch perfect anyway. You add a new dimension of wet on the outside of the track, and it's even more inch perfect than you needed to be before. So it makes it tough, but that's how we earn our money.
All right, good luck, buddy. I reckon you do a great result.
Thank you. Cheers.
Of course, Fabian teams up again with Craig Baird. We'll see Beardo in action over the course of the weekend in the Porsche Carrera Cup, which will bring you a couple of races in our coverage this weekend. Back on board with Scott McLaughlin, who has lost a spot. Chaz Mostert managed to get by and take 10th. And he just looks to be struggling. Fastest lap of the race was a 12.4, but that time around was a 14.6.
Plenty of straight line while we're on board with Scott McLaughlin. It's certainly not struggling for Mumbo, but it doesn't look comfortable in the braking zone. And that's where we saw Chaz Mostert get the move and the job done down at the chase. Look at these two wide teammates coming together. I think Kev Murphy will grab them and drag.
And Tony Bates gives back to Jeff Emery. And this is another car from Greg Murphy Racing. This is James Brock, who very nearly came to grief at King G. Managed to get away with it. He's 15th on the road at the moment. So the Greg Murphy Racing cars.
James Brock doing his best drift style there through turn 2. That's certainly not the fast way.
Up front, Thompson leading by 3.5 seconds. I was about to reference this. Perkins is catching Percat. He is reeling him in for 3rd place. This car is coming on as the race continues and the fuel burns out of it.
There you go. I stand corrected. Earlier on in the race, I called that maybe Nick Percat started with a low tyre pressure, but it doesn't look like he has.
Well, guys, Andrew Thompson leading this Fujitsu Series race. And Garth Tander, you've been a little bit critical of Andrew Thompson this week.
I'm not of Tomo himself, just his ability in the wet. He's not that flash in the wet, and there's a lot of weather hanging around here. There'll still potentially be here for the 1,000k race on Sunday. That we know he's fast in the dry. He's proving that now, but he's not that good in the wet. We know that for a fact, because Tomo was a teammate of ours when he was driving the Bundy car. He was quite openly that he didn't like the wet. And when it was wet in practice, he wasn't that fast. So I was just stating what I saw from the timesheets. Anyone can go do the research. The media types have grabbed it and had a big run with it. So it's the biggest news story of all time. But and then they've come out and said, we're just playing games with him, trying to get in his head. Well, absolutely, 100%. That's what we're trying to do.
Seems to be working. We'll find out if it rains, GT. Anyway, hey, tell me about you guys and how you're going. Things are looking good.
Yeah, cars are going really well. Cars are very good in the wet and the dry, with pretty much the same setup, because that's going to be critical with the looks like weather coming through, drying out. So you're going to need a car that works in all conditions. So we haven't tuned the car too much. But we're really happy with the car in the dry. It was quite fast in the only dry session we've had, and qualifying this afternoon will be an interesting one because there's weather still hanging around, but if we get ourselves in the 10, then we'll be happy.
GT, you seem to be making great forward steps at the moment. Nick Percat has been a great addition for you. That's working well. Yeah,
Nick's doing a fantastic job for us in the HRT car. There's a lot of pressure on him, a lot of expectation on him because he's racing the factory Holden team. It's his first 1,000k start. But, he's raced here before in the Fujitsu Series. He's out there now in the coach car in this year's Fujitsu Series. And by the time the race comes, he'll actually have done more laps here this weekend than I will have. So he's got plenty of miles, and I'll certainly start the race. So he'll just jump in when it's morning tea time for me, and then I'll go for another burn, and then he'll jump in while I have some lunch, and then I'll bring the car home on Sunday. So There's no pressure on him. He's just got to go out and drive fast, and he's doing a good job of that.
GT, great to see you. All the best.
Cheers, Brett. Thanks.
So it seemed that Garth's changed the quote. He said, not that flash. The one I read the other day said that Tomo was hopeless.
There you go. Garth Tander just telling us what he thinks of Andrew Thompson's ability in the wet, plus also maybe sticking his hand up with truth like that to be the new leader of the Labour Party. Who knows?
It's good to see those, some
Should
of the
be involved
guys.
in politics.
Oh, Boston into the back of Daniel Gillis. Got away
Very
with
lucky
it.
to get out of that.
And
Very
kept,
lucky.
And kept the front bumpers on them. But I was going to say, it's good to hear the guys saying what they think. Sometimes they've been criticised in the past for not doing that. Daniel Gillison is in trouble. The R&J Batteries Commodore has damage. This is Tom Tweedy, the Garmin Falcon, that had barely any running time. They had a problem with this car in practice one yesterday. Didn't get many laps. Missed practice 2. Qualified mid-pack, is up to 12th. New backer this weekend for the third car from the Matthew White Motorsport operation, and rolling along pretty well. Formula 3 graduate, son of former racer Rob Tweedy, and acquitting himself pretty well in an old car. But this is the replay, Andrew. Gillison gave some room, got to the point where he had to turn it in, but Mostert was there.
Yeah, a little bit of contact. Very lucky not to end up in the fence on the outside. I did notice, though, that as they come off the exit of Forest Elbow, Daniel Gillison had the pit lane speed limiter light on. So I'd say when he's tried to correct that car, he's bumped the limiter button, and that's why he's had a bit of a slow takeoff. Look, I think that potentially could just be a racing incident. Mostert on the inside, locked the rears. No effect done. There's that flashing light that I referred to in the centre. I reckon Daniel will work out what's going on, push the button, and away you'll go.
Zukanovic here running off the road, position 9 down at the chase. Looking back towards the top of the mountain, Perkins in 3rd spot. Remember, we get the band back together. It's Perkins and Ingle again this weekend. It's not Larry, though. It's Jack teaming up with Rusty.
What I found interesting about some of Garth's comments there, that when we were listening to him, Jack actually made very short work of Nick in the dry and is now driving away from him. So who knows? Garth might have egg on his face if Andrew Thompson wins this one in the dry and Nick Percat ends up finishing in 4th position.
It's going backwards and forwards here. I'm liking it. Back on board with Perkins here. Super Cheap Auto, Bob Jane T-Mart's Falcon, and this is a 888 built car. And this is the reason why, even though it's a Ford and he's driving a Commodore in the main race, because they're both built by 888, they have the same type of chassis construction and characteristics. That's why he's driving that car in the Fujitsu series.
Absolutely, and even just to get some miles under his belt. Look, Jack's been doing a great job with Russell this weekend, and like you said, we like to see some names and some very famous names back together. And by putting Russell and Jack together, there's people like you, Noons, that get a bit of a teary eye when they see things like that. It takes them back to the good old days.
The good old days. I remember it so well. It wasn't that long ago. Thompson's on his way home. He's got the margin to an even 4 seconds. He has really controlled the pace. And we talked about Andrew Thompson before. He drove for Bundaberg Red Racing last year at Walkinshaw Racing. John Russell is the engineer for the number 80 Commodore in the Fujitsu series. And the advantage he has got, he's part of 888 Race Engineering, so all the data that's coming in from the Vodafone cars, that's coming in from his car, it's all in the same garage, so it's moving the ball ahead at a rapid rate of knots.
What I thought was interesting there was John Russell looked very stressed for a bloke that's engineering a car that has got a 4-second lead over the rest of the field, didn't he? I'd say Andrew Thompson is in control mode here. We see David Russell with the headlights off, so he's given up his attack to try and make that gap a little bit closer on Andrew Thompson. He'll be happy to finish second here and bag another great haul of points.
And Russell won the round here last year. He won both the Fujitsu Series races in this very car for Matthew White's team. So it just goes to show you, though, some people would say it's not a good thing that the main game teams are coming to play in the Fujitsu Series, but others would say it's not a bad thing because it gives you a marker. You know where you're at when 888 turn up.
Absolutely, and I think, when you've got 888 winning a race and you've got David Russell driving for let's call it a privateer team. Look, they run FPR cars and they get a fair amount of support from FPR, but it's still a privateer team. Same thing for Jack Perkins. That's a 888 car, really good equipment, but he's run by a privateer team. Sonic Motorsport and Michael Ritter run that program. So, they're ahead of the factory WP run car of Nick Percat. So I think it's great that we get a combination of some of these factory run cars with some of these privateer run guys, and a little bit of driving ability comes in, and hats off to David Russell. He's doing a great job.
Andrew Thompson, though, has just had a little bit too much. He's on the run home to the chase for the final time. Finished on the podium for the first time in the main series at Phillip Island with the Allen H500. Second there. He teams up with Wing Cup for the big one on Sunday. But this is a great way to open the batting with a victory in the Fujitsu Series.
Certainly looking like he's going to keep that 100% winning record at Bathurst intact, Noons. It looks like Andrew Thompson is going to come around the final corner here. Another race win.
He's
under the belt.
He's had to wait 5 years, but he wins another one in the Fujitsu series on the mountain. Thompson picks up race 1. Great job, David Russell. Home in second spot. Perkins is third, and that is Thompson's 7th race win of the season. He's won the last 3 rounds straight. Paul Morris
having a little bit of fun on the last corner there.
Sergeant Security Commodore is home, position 5, some 14 seconds down the road. It's pretty happy times at 888 Race Engineering. So while they're busy fixing one car, they've got another car that is a winner. Jack Perkins third. Good haul of championship points.
Actually, pretty good recovery by Jack. He was 6th into that first corner, and to end up back on the final podium position was a pretty good recovery. I think he'll go back, he'll have a look at his start process and try and fix that a little.
We'll do it all over again tomorrow. Another 14-lap race for the 5th round of the series. And then we will go to the podium as well with this category, because they have a podium at the end of the weekend, not for each race. So to recap the results, Blanchard 6th from Rodney Jane, David Wall in 8th, Marcus Zukanovic 9th, and Scott McLaughlin hung on to round out the top 10. Lots more ahead at the mountain. Chaz Mostert outside the 10 from Tom Tweedy, Aaron Russell 13th, Aaron McGill rounded out the top 20.